police for black girl nerds.
So excited to see the two of you because your faction of dwarves have been my favorite characters throughout the franchise, and to see the two of you makes me very, very excited of what's to become. Sophia, beginning with you, congratulations, blazing new ground. We get a female dwarf, we get a black female dwarf at Black Girl Nerds. We are super duper excited about that. So when you get this call, not only is it's an epic opportunity for your career, but it's a totally different character that no one has done before you, and you can forge your own path. How do you celebrate a win like that by being in a project and being able to craft something completely new?
Oh, I think I celebrate that by surrendering to the greatness of the opportunity that's been presented in front of me. I delved into this world through the audition process, of which I was 2 days away from giving birth. My baby was very much engaged, and I loved your expression there. It makes me feel even better. And so what an empowering way to start this journey, to breathe new life, not only into the world, but into the world of the Rings of Power and Middle-earth as well. So it just felt like I had two incredible babies in the palms of my hand, and I took none of that for granted, and I unapologetically ran with it for every single thing that it was worth, which is glory, joy, necessity, progression, strength. It has been the turning point of my entire life, both personally, culturally, and career-wise, for sure.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Mm-hmm. That's incredible that you are on the eve of giving birth all while this is going on. It just makes it that much more sweet and impressive. Owain, even with you, also, we know the history of the dwarves from when they had a reputation of being thieving and maybe a little conniving. Then we see they grow into bravery and noble soldiers and become these really formidable group of people. And now this time in history is before all those things that we go on to know about the dwarves in the future versions of Tolkien's story. What are you most proud of with a role like this? Because it's super duper exciting.
Yeah, I suppose we get to kind of set the seeds, really, for those moments later on in Middle Earth. For me, my favourite challenge, I suppose, was to play a dwarf. That's a different being to us humans. You know, we are made of rock. And that and those attributes of a dwarf, though, that the stubbornness, the fighter, the worker, the lover, kind of, because of their temperaments, the extremities to which the dwarves go to was a joy to play as an actor.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, Sophia, when you finally got a chance to see yourself in the full regalia, the costume and everything, how did you react to yourself? And the same to you, Owain. How did you guys react to yourselves when you got to see it for the first time?
I just cried and cried and cried. And my daughter was with me, and she turned to me. This is now seeing the images, you know, that the world can see now. And she said, "Mama, that's you." And for me, it just took my breath away, because Disa is a vision of what all of us women and women of color are striving for, which is a recognition of our excellence.
And Owain, you?
Ask me the question again, sorry.
How did you react to seeing yourself for the first time in the full regalia?
Yeah. Well, when the first thing I actually put on was the prosthetic nose. And let me tell you, just having the prosthetic nose completely changes a person's face. And it kind of freaked me out a bit. So it's kind of like, please put the beard on because I look really strange. and so it did. In turn, it came on and kind of we were exploring with it and kind of like, oh, phew, I look like something now. You know, kind of, I looked like an 85-year-old man, you know, just because of the it was
When you had just a bit of a week.
I am very excited to talk to the both of you because two are the only castmates I don't know a single thing about. No character name. They didn't give me any notes on either of you. No character names, no group of people you belong to. Just absolutely nothing. So Cynthia, beginning with you, what is your character's name and what group of people of Middle Earth does she belong to?
So I am playing the character of Queen Míriel, and she is the Queen Regent of the island kingdom of Númenor. And as Queen Regent, essentially she is not fully a queen just yet. So we'll have a better understanding of that, you know, as the season progresses. But she essentially is the woman in charge and presiding over Númenor.
And Trystan, how about you? Are you also royalty? And what group of people do you belong to?
I am,
does
yes.
your character belong to?
So I play the character of Pharazôn, who is cousin to Queen Míriel and her consul, her right-hand man. And I guess it's my role to relay her message, the go-between between Regency and the common folk of Númenor. And I mean, it's. I don't know whether common folk is the right word to use when you're talking about Númenor, because it's this very powerful island kingdom of men, and they seem, compared to us, or compared to the rest of men on Middle Earth, they're superhuman. You know, they're taller, they're broader, they live longer. So yeah, they seem to be more enhanced in every aspect. So it's my role to relay the Queen's message to the people and make sure that there's social cohesion, that everything goes, you know, without a mess, that runs smoothly.
Mm-hmm. For the season, it's really fascinating, and all of our experiences with Tolkien have been in cinema, full movie form, and now we get to enjoy it in bits and pieces. And these are all new stories that predate the things that we know about all the various kingdoms and all the various people. Cynthia, in a project like this, is this a daunting task when you first take it on and accept the role, or is it more of a refreshing thing since there's no comparators and you can blaze your own trail of how you want to bring the Queen to the fandom?
I think it's certainly a little bit of both. You know, on the one hand, it would be easy to get overwhelmed just by the sheer size of the story itself. You know, it spans many thousands of years, and you have, you know, essentially what we're working off of, which are the appendices. So these are like Tolkien's detailed notes, sort of laying out the roadmap of what happens in the Second Age. And what's great about our series and getting to tell this story in a serialized way, we have more room and more time to expand upon, you know, worlds that are familiar to some. But I think for a lot of people, this is going to be the first time they're going to get to see it on screen. So you have a show that's going to feel familiar, but there's the opportunity to, you know, enhance certain worlds and enhance characters. And that's exciting as an actor, because you want to feel like you can put your own stamp on a character and sort of define that character, fill it in, make it, you know, multidimensional. So, you know, it's fortunate that we get to, you know, get the opportunity to do that in a really creative way.
Trystan, in the enhancing of this world, there's so much text that Tolkien wrote during the course of his lives on all of these kingdoms, and you have to begin your research from somewhere.
Yes.
Where do you start? I mean, everything else that we know in the future of your now. So where did you start your research within the text? Do you go all the way to the newer? Do you start with the traditional, with the Hobbit? Like, what was a good road for you to forge into acclimating yourself with all of this?
Well, I think starting anywhere in the Tolkien verse is a good start. And so my introduction would have been to see the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings when they first came out, the films, read the Hobbit book, read the Lord of the Rings books, and then see the Hobbit films. So, you know, you have a grasp of that world. Of course, that's in the future. That's in the third age. So we're going to the second age. Númenor is mentioned, and my character is mentioned in the Unfinished Tales and the Akallabeth. So the Akallabeth, sorry, I beg your pardon, in the Unfinished Tales, there's a brilliant description of what Númenor is. And I think given that Númenorians are prone to excessive pride, you know, that sometimes can sort of bleed into hubris, that chapter of the description of Númenor, you're actually seeing it through the eyes of a Númenorian. It's just this wonderful description. You can just imagine somebody like Pharazôn just looking out over the bay or on top of a mountain, just surveying his land. You know, that's an incredible place to start. With regards then to going further with the character, I guess, you know, for the look of it and how Númenorians hold themselves, there was a lot of calisthenics, a lot of Pilates. That helped with the aesthetic of it, which I loved. I absolutely hoovered up every Pilates class I could. And then just to look at the way politicians, especially in the age that we're living in now, it's fascinating to see different politicians from different countries, different states and different counties, how they relay messages to the public and how they're saying one thing, but they mean another, and how that comes across. So, you know, there's lots of news outlets and everything. So that anything that you could just sponge and soak up, you know, that was helpful for my character.
Cynthia, as the queen, heavy is the head that wears a crown, of course. And so within all of these factions of people, there's shades of gray. Some lean more left and right on the scale of nobility and honor than others. So during the course of the episodes, what will the relationship be between the queen and Pharazôn? Because although they are confidant, he is her confidant and he is at her aid and they are cousins, that doesn't mean he doesn't have his own ambitions of himself. So what can you say about their interpersonal relationship and how it will manifest throughout the season?
What I love about this relationship is I think people who are deeply versed in the story of Númenor in particular will have an idea of where things ultimately go. What we get to do, and in a very nuanced way, I think, is sort of introduce the relationship and see sort of where they are at this point in the story. And we have a lot of great scenes, you know, as grand as the scope of this story is, there are a lot of really intimate, smaller scenes, you know, spoken in hushed tones that kind of, I think, ground things and bring them down to a level that feels a bit more relatable rather than sort of, you know, the grandiosity and the largeness of it all. You know, at the end of the day, you're seeing two people who are in a very unique position and are in very rarefied air. And in terms of their relationship, there is that ability to confide, but you know, Míriel still keeps a lot of things to herself. And in that sense, it's a very isolating situation. It's a very lonely place to be. So, you know, in addition to that idea of, yes, heavy is the head that wears the crown, there's also the sense of loneliness and really sort of having to hold on to things and trying to be thoughtful because she understands that her decisions have larger implications for her people. But again, when you get to tell a serialized story, you know, we're going to really sort of let it unfold. It's a slow burn. You know, we're not going to show everything all at once. And so we are planting seeds to start. So we're introducing the world, introducing these characters and introducing their relationship. And over the course of this first season, we get to sort of see where it starts to ultimately lead them.
I think as well.
Love a good seed planting.
Yes.
Go ahead, Trystan. I love a good
I think they have a deep love for each other, as family, and as, you know, as I'd say equals, but you're the queen. So there is a deep-rooted love there for each other, which I think is equaled by their love, or, well, I can't talk for you, but my love for legacy. I think Pharazôn, being a man, is mortal. He's not going to live forever. And I think, burdened by his own mortality, I think he does get preoccupied with legacy, as probably a lot of Númenóreans might as well.
Legacy. Yes, it can get you. It cuts both ways. It cuts both ways. Thank you all for your time. I'm very excited to see just the whole everything, every aspect. So I thank you for talking to me. Have a wonderful season.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure
Nice to
talking
meet you.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for your time,
Hi.
whatever time it is there. Thank you again.
What was your name, sorry?
Giandra, and I'm from Black Girl
Giandra.
Nerds.
Lovely
Nice
to meet you.
Lovely to meet the both of you too. Well, these are some exciting times. This is a franchise that is beloved. It's so layered, and there's just so many dimensions for storytelling for a franchise like this. Markella, beginning with you, the two of you are playing two lovable Harfoots, is how you've been described. Well, that's because they're so lovable. Because your characters are so lovable, will they have to get a little bit gangster in there to defend Middle Earth? And, you know, is it just kumbaya and flowers and love for the whole season?
I honestly think that the lovable aspect will be depending on who you ask, because there's a lot of rebellion in there, and there's a lot of kind of testing and pushing boundaries within the Harfoot community, and especially with the character that I play, Nori Brandyfoot. She's super. She tests the waters. She wants to subvert Harfoot tradition. She takes risks, and so I think that there's a lot of they get up to a lot of mischief and. But then also kind of balance that with heart and joy and a bit of hilarity, hopefully here and there, and hopefully a bit of a balance.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of both. And so I play Poppy Proudfellow, and she is definitely motivated in this series by Nori and the way that she goes, and just in her being and her loyalty to her friend, she just feels that the safest way in order to keep her safe, the community safe, and Nori safe is by being by her side. And so that means that adventure/chaos ensues.
When you participate in a project like this, since it's a series, all of the other versions we've seen have been full films. Is it a daunting task or an exciting task, Markella, when you can sort of forge new ground and bring the franchise into episodic form?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, obviously, yeah, being aware that there are a lot of people who really love Tolkien and love his work and love his writing. And I think whilst being aware of that and wanting to respect that as much as possible, also just focusing on not kind of adhering to scale and just mentally going, okay, I'm going to focus on the work, and the approach is the same regardless of all of that. And so, and just focusing on the excitement of getting to be a part of the series, and hopefully another generation will be able to really love and relate to thematically what's explored in the story and in the series, and the themes that have run throughout the course of the books and the films, and then hopefully the series. So I think that's exciting, and yeah, can't wait for people to see it.
Same here. Megan, for you, one of your castmates described diving into the text of some of the stories. It's almost like diving into biblical text because it's very heavy. It's a very, very can be a daunting task to read the text and really immerse yourself in the story. Was it the same experience for you, or were you already a super duper Tolkien fan before this?
I had no experience. I didn't have Tolkien in my life before this show. So I was able to really sort of explore his work and really sort of immersify myself in his work and his world quite literally by being on this show and learning so much from my other castmates and the Tolkien expert and the showrunners as well. But it was, what's nice is because Poppy is not a canon character, I was able to look at the text that was in front of me, that was written by Patrick and JD, and really sort of build my character from that, and look at the text and go from there.
A huge part of the enjoyment of this franchise is the costuming, the visuals. New Zealand is a very beautiful place. I've gone there myself. And so, Markella, when you first had the opportunity to see yourself in the whole regalia, how did you react to seeing yourself that way?
I mean, yeah, I think as you said, it's a beautiful, New Zealand is such a beautiful place, and we were really fortunate to be filming on location a lot of the time. So the environment became a bit of a character, and then to see myself in the costume and all of that whole was such a surreal and just really kind of that process of getting into costume, getting to makeup was just invaluable, and all their preparation beforehand and the exposure that we had to the costumes and the process of them being created was so invaluable. And it was just very surreal and really exciting to kind of have that be a really solid foundation from which I could then come with notes and ideas and backstories and arcs. And then the showrunners coming in with, like, you know, incredible writing, and the directors coming in. And so it was just all such a village of people. It takes a village really to create this. And so it really added to my experience. And I felt like I really had we were such a team building and creating the world that I was in. So yeah, I was a part of. So yeah, it was very, very exciting.
Indeed. They are giving me my time. Thank you so much for your time. I cannot wait to see the full thing. It's going to be awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet
Nice to meet both of you too. Thank you.
See you.
Good morning, all of you. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. How are you?
It is very early here in Los Angeles, but I am very excited to talk to all of you. This is a franchise that I love and have been immersed in since high school, with the Hobbit for me in high school, like many other people. But congratulations to all of you. Lloyd, beginning with you, The Lord of the Rings, like I said, is such a popular franchise that the world has enjoyed. It's very secretive right now, exactly what we're going to see from the series. What can you tell us about your character and what we can expect from the series once we get to the chance to see it?
Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm playing Elendil, who, as some people might know, is the 38th great grandfather of Aragorn. So you know, there's a family line that I have a responsibility for. But where we see him at the beginning of the of this season is he's a mariner, he's a ship's captain, very capable. He's suffering from the loss of his wife. He's trying to bring up 3 grieving adult children, and as well as trying to deal with his own grief. He's moved the family to the capital city of Númenor and is trying to just navigate his way through that, through an emotional safe haven. But the politics of Númenor are gradually infiltrating the family, and so there's a battle for him between his head and his heart. His heart is elvish, his heart is connected to the faithful in the West, but his head tells him that practically that's a dangerous place to be in. And as he slowly gets sucked into some of that political drama, which is also reflected in the family, so there are political and personal waters to navigate for him. That's where my character is in the beginning. So.
It's important for us to see the groundworks of, like, he's the ancestor of Aragorn of Arathorn, who's a very popular character later on, and to see these origin stories kind of shape the man who we know him to become. Emma, for your character, Karine, the women that we've seen as part of the series, or all of the different installments, have been powerful, strong warriors, but still have that vulnerability and the ability to make those around them better. How does this character continue that narrative, or set the path for that narrative and that caliber of women that we learn about later into the years?
That's a wonderful question. Can I correct you briefly on something?
Sure.
Her name is actually Eärien.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I think the
We
internet.
haven't gotten a chance to see any of it yet.
Of
so
course,
we are
I'm so excited to share her real name because I know that name has been all over the internet, and it's been like torture to not be able to say no, that's not her name. No. Anyways, what a beautiful question. So my character is kind of on the cusp of adulthood. You see, she's a very young woman. I think probably, the youngest sort of female character that's ever been introduced. So she is. You meet her in a sort of naive and quite insecure period of her life. So fingers crossed, she'll find some strength over the course of the show. But for this season, she's quite racked with tragedy and loss because she's lost a brother and her mom, and she's trying desperately to become a bit of a mother figure to her older brother, who's a bit of a troublemaker, and also trying to balance ambition. She's an aspiring architect on the island of Numenor.
Which is architecturally beautiful.
A
great profession to go into.
Yeah. But she hasn't quite grown into the strong women we know from the books.
Other than I would add that she's the anchor of the family, which is why she's potentially feels overlooked by Elendil, but I think he feels that she's so strong that she's holding this whole thing together in the way that the two older boys have not coped well with it. So there's a definite strength in her in that sense from his perspective, I think. Anyway.
Thank you. And lastly, Maxim, for you, Isildur, a name that we know in future generations, what can you tell us about what is his involvement going to be this season into all of this settling of the lands and all of these things that will happen over the course of the season?
So we're based in Numenor in season 1. So you see him, you see his origin, you see how he grows up, and in the first season he's very lost. He wants to fulfill his father's dream of becoming a sea captain like himself, but there's also this void in Isildur's heart, and it's not filled by the city, and he wants to escape, he wants to move, he wants to travel. It's almost quite romantic for him to leave, and he doesn't know what it is, he doesn't know what that will bring and offer, but that's just, I guess, a young person's outlook on life, and that's his struggle in season 1. He makes a lot of mistakes on the way, and he I'll say.
and we will find out. I'm most just the majesty of it. I'm already trying to visualize what the series is going to look like with the sweeping grounds and the lands. And I've gone to New Zealand myself, and I can just imagine what this is going to look like. And it's super exciting. Lloyd, closing out with you, the first time you got to see yourself in the whole regalia, how did you react to yourself to see yourself that way?
It was an extraordinary process, and the whole thing has been incredibly collaborative. So I think I must have had about 7 or 8 different costume fittings over a 2-month period as we discussed what they would design, and we had the most extraordinary costume designer, didn't we? Who has done an amazing job, and everything was made simple in the sense that walking onto the set of the island of Numenor, for example, there's in the age of CGI. We've built Numenor extraordinarily. I say we, not me, obviously, but production design, lighting.
Emma actually designed it. Has an architectural degree.
It just fell down because she's only an apprentice. But that has been the great privilege and excitement of being on this job. Is the attention to granular detail. And the fact that
you look so good in every single costume.
I've been very lucky, very, very lucky with the amount of skill that's around us in every single department, right? It's just the people the artists they've employed on this job is inspiring to be a part of. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I thank you guys. I just can't wait, and I'm very excited. Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you. Tim.
Well, I thank you for your time today, this afternoon, depending on where you are. Very exciting to see the next installment of a very revered franchise, and you are High King Gil-galad in this series. The elves have always been, all of the characters very popular, but the elves have always been on a different level of popularity in the fandom. When you first got a chance to see yourself in the full regalia, the hair, the ears, the arrows, all of the things that we know the elves to be popular for, how did you react to seeing yourself that way?
Well, luckily, everyone who built what I was wearing, whether it was who stitched the runes on my sleeve, or who molded my ears, or the best craftspeople on the planet. If anything, my first sensation was, I hope I don't let these people down, because the amount of work and time and effort and research and love that had gone into the leaves on the ground and the sole of my shoes, the least I can do is my best. It was inspiring and humbling at the same time.
Mm-hmm. When you find out you're going to be a participant in a franchise like this, it's very shrouded in secrecy, and for good reason. We want to have the best fan reactions possible. How did you celebrate finding this out, and how much could you share with your family members?
I couldn't share a lot, but I don't mind that. You know, I don't want to know how the magician does his trick. You know, I don't want to spoil it. Like, even if it's for my mom and she wants to know who I'm playing, I'm like, I don't want to spoil it for you. You're gonna love it. But I don't mind the secrecy. You know, nobody wants to know if Ross and Rachel get together beforehand. You know, it's a part of the fun. And I celebrated by having a great excuse to read the books. You know, it's kind of like, honey, you should be doing the dishes. Yeah, but I'm doing research. You know, I already loved to do. And now I had an excuse to do it.
Mm-hmm. As we know here, we've had a chance to read some notes. We are excited, just like the fandom, to see it because we haven't seen anything on the press end. This time in history, for all of these characters, take place way prior to the now or the future that we know in the fandom. Is there a relief in having the opportunity to blaze that type of trail, since it's before all of the other things that we already think we know about these factions of characters?
Sure. Luckily, Tolkien's work is dense enough that multiple interpretations can stand as separate artistic interpretations. But we're kind of doing the coming of age of Middle-earth. That we're meeting the characters when they're realizing their destinies, when they're taking the first steps on their journeys. And that for me is exciting. Also because the nature of the way we're filming it is that it's a series. So every episode is its own movie where we can be immersed in these worlds and enjoy all the detail and let the narrative kind of wash over us over time and kind of luxuriate in what Tolkien has created and that kind of realization of destiny.
Since this period is this kind of the shaping of Middle Earth, as you mentioned, in the future incarnations, there's a very clear good and evil that we are aware of. Is there that same clarity of good and evil throughout the series during this formation of Middle Earth?
Well, I don't find in Tolkien's writing that it is that cut and dry, particularly like we're talking about the adolescence, if you will, you know, that when we're on our path of becoming who we ultimately are, there's lots of twists and turns, and that's true in his writing, and that's certainly true in what we're trying to do with the series. We're pushing away from cartoon and mustache twirling that that everyone is trying to find themselves and be the best version of themselves, even if that version is potentially sinister. The only way a hero really triumphs is over an equal nemesis. So Tolkien understood that. Tolkien understood the non-ending battle between light and dark, but at the same time, all the shades of gray in between are just as important because they get us to the ultimate battle.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, as you mentioned, you got a chance to do research when you wanted to maybe sneak away from chores. So in that research, which was the first book that you picked up? Did you start with the Hobbit? Did you pick up one of the laters? What did you pick up first?
I picked up the Silmarillion. Now that is a dense book. It's a hard read, but it is so gratifying in the same way that reading a religious text is gratifying. That the amount of focus that's asked of the reader is almost trance-like. At least it was for me, where it's like, you have that experience when you're driving your car and you're pulling into your driveway and you're like, I don't remember the last 4 minutes. Where was I? That's how lost I get in Tolkien's text, and particularly the Silmarillion, the kind of mythic nature of it and the kind of Old Testament to it. I love that. And it reminds me of the text that Gil-galad would have loved and pored over and studied.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, we are very excited to see the product when it lands in August. I thank you for your time and have a wonderful premiere. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for your time. It is a pleasure to be with you both. This is such a historical franchise. The work of Tolkien has stood the test of time for many years through high schools and movie theaters everywhere. Beginning with you, Morfydd, Galadriel, this is a character that we are familiar with, but all of these stories in this season take place in the past and shape what we come to know for the future. Is it a daunting task to step into the role of a character that fans may be familiar with, but not this portion of the character's life?
Yeah, it is daunting. I'd be much more daunted if we were doing the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But this Galadriel is thousands of years younger, which is nice. So a lot's going to happen to her before she turns into the Galadriel that we all know so well. One of the huge things that's going to happen is that the rings are going to be created. And that is going to show the elves that they can be corrupted to a degree that they never knew they could be. And my Galadriel, compared to what the Galadriel of the Third Age becomes, knows nothing.
You know nothing.
I know
nothing. That's exciting. It's exciting to have that sort of bandwidth to shape this person who becomes so formidable, and it's going to be very exciting to watch. And Charlie, your character Halbrand will be closely tied during this portion of her life. What can you say about their relationship with each other as they're both kind of evolving and growing? Because your character is mortal, if I'm not mistaken, is human, correct?
Yeah, I think Galadriel brings this element of evolution to Hal's character, because I think when we meet Halbrand, he's hell-bent on leaving his past behind him and going somewhere else. But Galadriel starts to open these little windows and doors in his mind, and that show him glimpses of, maybe things he could become, or how he could be a slightly different man if he wanted to be. And he's sort of grappling with the possibility of, going and, letting these dreams become a reality, or stepping away from them completely and following the path that he set for himself, So there's a lot of sort of a push and pull, and
she inspires him.
He finds her very inspiring. Yeah. Also very annoying.
We all need inspiration. I love that. Morfydd, for you, since you have this rich script to work upon for this series, although this is in essence a completely different person than we already know, do you look towards that future embodiment to kind of shade in how you want to present the character to us? What's too much, too little? Like, what's the fine line of using what we know to help shape what we're going to learn?
I've definitely seen it as how it's daunting, but also you're really lucky if Cate Blanchett has played the character that you're going to play, because she's uncovered a lot. And so it was really great knowing that my character would become, that Galadriel would become that version of herself. But like, the elves of the Second Age, they don't know whether they're going to make it to the Third Age necessarily. And also Galadriel's lost her brother, so she's dealing with the idea of as close to mortality as elves can get to. So yeah, I really liked thinking, I thought a lot about the Galadriel of the Third Age and also the Galadriel of the First Age, and how the Galadriel of the Second Age is so informed and will inform the Third Age. It's at age so many times, I don't know if that makes sense.
It's pretty cool, and you get a lot of cool costumes too. Charlie, and lastly for you, the big mystique of any of these projects is the just seeing yourself in the costuming and the landscaping. New Zealand is gorgeous. How did you react to yourself the first time you got to see yourself in the full regalia?
It was pretty amazing. I mean, there were, as you say, the beauty of a project like this is you have quite a few different costumes, and it's not only seeing yourself in them for the first time, but it's seeing the level of detail and craftsmanship and effort and care that goes into making these costumes, and then you get to wear them for your job. So I think that had just as a profound impact on me as stepping onto set wearing the costume, knowing that it's such a privilege to be able to, I guess,
wear someone's art.
Showcase the craftsmanship of some people.
I cannot wait to see. I'm so excited to see this. I thank you guys for your time. I'm gonna keep my lips zipped, and we're gonna wait until it hits the airways. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hello, you guys. Just when I thought I couldn't like elves and humans anymore, along comes the two of you.
There you go. Look at that introduction. This is, I mean, the best. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful intro. Thank you for that.
The pleasure is entirely mine. And in addition to being fans of work both of you have already done, we love this series, and we love this franchise, and we're excited to see it given to us in episodic form, something we've never had before. Nancy, in beginning with you, your character Bronwyn is a healer, and maybe there's someone in the village that is catching her eye who that might not be a great thing. It might be great for them, it might not be great for the audience. What can you tell us about the journey of the characters this season? Because the cloud of secrecy has us so excited about what we can anticipate seeing.
I mean, we're excited to share with you in increments what we discovered in increments, because that's the beauty of the show, the discovery of it. So it's not so much secrecy as it is the anticipation that we want you to feel, that we felt filming it. But I'm excited to introduce Bronwyn to the world because she is very multifaceted. I feel very empowered playing this. She's not only a single mother to a rebellious teenage son. She's the village healer, which I heavily relate to as having been pre-med. But she's also trying to liberate her people from the shadows of their past, from being on the side of evil over good centuries ago, and trying to redeem themselves. And as an activist, I feel very connected to that, trying to do human rights work for my homeland, Iran. And she's in a forbidden love with this gorgeous Sylvan elf who is played by the incredible Ismael Cruz Cordova, who's watching over her people. And so there's a power dynamic here.
Yeah,
I love that. Ismael, as Arendir, we get an elf. We love the elves. We get an elf that is a person of color, something that we haven't seen before. And there's this beautiful or interesting relationship that's going to happen throughout the course of the season. When this time in history takes place before all of the things that we already know about the franchise. Is that a relief? Is it a daunting thing that you get to kind of show the path that led ultimately to all these factions of people in Middle-earth?
I think, as you said, I am a person of color. I'm Afro-Latino, and I think that my legacy is of groundbreaking and making our own path, and of making our way. So I feel very much aligned with that legacy of making new and breaking ground and establishing and occupying, spaces that perhaps we haven't been invited to. But the responsibility, the honor, and the excitement are quite much larger than any kind of intimidation or how I may feel daunting. I felt so excited to work here. I felt so excited to put my soul, my blood, sweat, and tears, and to bring my heritage into it as well. You will see, even for example, I grounded my physical work, and aside from any other martial arts, in capoeira, which is an Afro-Brazilian martial art, I brought that in there. And again, he's a warrior. He's someone rooted in an ancestral spirit. So I just had to tap a lot into the obstacles that I have, faced left and right. So I'm very, very honored to represent our people.
I love listening to the both of you describe your characters, because it almost sounds like manifestation. Nazanin, you're an activist. Ismael, you are a firm, proud Afro-Latino, bringing in capoeira into the roles are fascinating. Nazanin, lastly, because they're going to wrap me up, when you had a chance to see yourself, and actually for both of you, when you got to see yourself in the full regalia for the first time, how did you react to seeing yourselves?
It's surreal. I mean, both of us this is not something you could have dreamt 10 years ago in this industry, of the representation of both of us in these roles. And so I think the fact that this is happening is both surreal and exciting, encouraging. It inspires hope, and we've shed tears multiple times on set, looking at our surroundings and our costumes and thinking, is this really happening in the scope of the show, right?
Yeah, when I first saw myself in character for regalia and my ears on, it just felt like relief, and like I've arrived, and now let's take it home. I feel very much that I was meant to play this character, and I was chosen by this character to bring his soul to the screen and make all of our people proud.
Well, we are proud of you guys, and we're super excited to see it. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful season. We can't wait to see it.
Almost there.
Thank you.
Almost there. So close.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.